I've been full dopamine detoxing for over 6 months now, and it's been a life changing experience. There's been some ups and downs. I still think it's probably the best thing I've ever done, but it has not been all sunshine and rainbows. So, here are some of the downsides that I've experienced from dopamine detoxing for the past 6 months. First thing here is that the days are really intense. If you're a normal person doing normal things, okay, then you get up and you probably spend a bit of time scrolling, right? You might watch some TV in the afternoon, you might play some video games, you might do all these things that are quite relaxing, things where you can just switch off your brain, enter zombie mode, and just do nothing. When you're dopamine detoxing, particularly the way I've been doing it, where I've just removed all online entertainment, is that your relaxation options are really, really limited. The amount of things that you can do to just completely switch your brain off is very, 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 very limited. So, for example, a few relaxation options you could do now that you've eliminated all online entertainment is reading, which is, to be honest, not all that zombie mode. Reading actually requires a fair bit of focus. Meditation, that's a reasonable one, but still requires a bit of brain power. Things like hanging out with your mates, that's good, but it's not really something that's always accessible. You can't just instantly teleport your mates in front of you and just relax. Okay, so not super accessible all the time, not like pulling your phone out of your pocket. And then you have something like learning a language, which I've actually been really liking. So I have Duolingo, which I've been basically replacing with scrolling in video games. So I'm trying to learn Spanish at the moment. That's been a good one, but even then, learning a new language is hardly the most relaxing thing you can possibly do. So as you can see, it's just not a lot of options that you have to just switch off and do absolutely nothing, which makes the days really intense. Every hour of the day, every minute, you're always kind of doing something, and you're always doing something that's demanding, either mentally in terms of the work you're doing, learning something, or it's demanding physically. You're exercising, right? You're doing some kind of workout. In some way or another, you're always doing something that's demanding, it's challenging. There's no time where you're really switching off your brain. Now, one of the ways that I've combated this and actually made it easier for me to maintain full days of just purely grinding, like doing things that are moving me in some way towards goals, is I try and cycle between mentally challenging and physically challenging activities. So, for example, if I wake up and I do, my little morning routine or whatever, and then I get to work and I do about a 4 hour work block. At the end of that work block, I'm feeling pretty tired mentally. I'm feeling quite mentally strained. That's when I'll throw in a workout. So I'll throw in a workout after about 4 hours of work. That'll take me about an hour. Then I'll have lunch, go for a quick walk, and then I'm back and ready for another work block. It feels like, okay, I've actually refreshed my mind. Even though I haven't done something that's zero effort, I've actually done something quite challenging. It's just challenging in a different way. It's no longer challenging me mentally, it's challenging me physically. And then when I have that reset, when I have a meal and then get back to work, it's actually, it feels pretty good. I feel okay, I'm ready to go again. And then I can do another 4 hour work block. And then at the end of that 4 hour work block, I'll, throw in some more sport or maybe another bit of activity, something sort of low impact, some sort of physical activity that's moving me in some way towards my goals. So for example, right now, after my second work block, I'm throwing in usually an hour of zone 2 cardio because I'm trying to build up my aerobic base to be better for running marathons. But whatever that looks like for you, just adding in some sort of physically challenging activity just to break up the mentally challenging activities. Because, for example, if you did a huge work block and you say, okay, I'm going to relax, and then you start learning Spanish or you start reading a book or you start doing something else mentally challenging, this is where you just become absolutely fried. By the end of the day, you're totally cooked. Going to be very, very challenging for you to maintain that over a long period of time. And that's the big thing here, is you want to be able to do this consistently. So trying to find a way to cycle between mentally challenging and physically challenging activities has helped me with that. But regardless, the days are really intense. A great thing about this is that usually at the end of a big long day, what people do is they'll sit down on the couch, they'll go horizontal, and then they'll just stare into a screen. They'll go watch some Netflix or whatever. Rather than doing that, I'm just like, I'm really tired. I'll just go to bed. I'll just sleep. And this has been really good for my sleep. I've made a bunch of videos about sleep and how important it is, but my sleep has been really good. I average about a 90 sleep score. The sleep has been fantastic. So rather than sitting horizontally and staring at a screen, I'm lying horizontally and staring at the back of my eyelids, doing that for about 8 or 10 hours a day. That is going to really help the quality of your sleep. And when you have great quality sleep, right, that's going to translate to the next day. You're going to have more energy, you're going to feel better, you're going to be able to actually do more during the day. It's a really good thing to have. So rather than just wasting the time relaxing, you actually relax, you actually recover by getting good quality sleep. So those are a few things I've done, is just cycling between mentally challenging and physically challenging, and then just getting good high quality sleep. That makes the days that are still going to be very intense a lot more manageable, and it just allows you to do this for long periods of time. As I said, I've been doing this for 6 months. One of the reasons I've been able to maintain that is getting good quality sleep and cycling between mentally challenging and physically challenging activities. Real quick, if you would like to reach peak performance, I've left no stone unturned to giving you everything that you could possibly need, including an entire course on how to dopamine detox. So if that is at all interesting to you, I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check out. Second downside I've experienced here is just growing pains. I mean, you're always going to be in some sort of pain throughout your life. Pain is a constant. Pain is going to happen regardless. But rather than the typical pain that someone gets, which is the existential pain of suffering passively through life and not actually doing anything with their time, you have the pain of constantly doing stuff with your time. And that is painful in of itself. Because you're choosing the delayed gratification route and you're always doing challenging things, you're always working on your business, you're always trying to learn new things, you're always working on your physique and trying to get in better shape. All of these things are very painful in the moment. It's very uncomfortable to be constantly working and constantly learning and then constantly, trying to get better physically. It's a very challenging and painful thing to do. And whilst you feel incredible existentially because I'm growing all the time, it's not a matter of am I improving, it's a matter of how quickly am I improving, which feels fantastic. But in the moments, you're always doing challenging things. And that is tough. That is difficult. And yes, over time you get used to it. So now that I've been doing this for 6 months, it's kind of a default state of just you're always doing something challenging, and you do get used to the discomfort. You get used to the pain. It's not always really hard. You get used to it. But either way, there is always some level of discomfort when you're pushing yourself, when you're pushing your limits and trying to become a better version of yourself. So whilst you're basically completely eliminating the pain of what am I doing with my life? Am I doing enough? Am I actually progressing? You are replacing it with the pain of always doing challenging things, which is tough. But it is a great thing when you can do this for long enough, because you do start to embrace and enjoy the difficulty rather than constantly thinking, I have to do this workout. You're thinking, wow, I get to do this workout. And the fact that you don't have all this instant gratification, cheap dopamine activities, you're actually receiving dopamine from things like your work, from things like working out, from things like learning. So you actually start to enjoy the difficult activities. So while they're still difficult, it's still painful and uncomfortable. You actually start enjoying it and you start looking forward to it. If I'm doing a big work block, I'm actually really excited for the workout I have coming up. I'm thinking about, well, am I going to get some PRs in the gym? I'm in some way progressing in my physique and in my fitness. That's really exciting. And then when you're working on your business, you're thinking, wow, I'm, progressing my business forward. I'm moving in some way. So you start to embrace it and you start to actually enjoy it, which is great. But that's not to say it's not painful, because there is definitely a certain level of discomfort that you will feel almost at all times. The third downside I've noticed is that I'm a lot more out of touch. When I talk to the average person about average things, I don't really know what's going on, because not only have I eliminated all online entertainment, but I've eliminated things like politics and current affairs. I'm not keeping up with influencers and celebrities. So when people tell me, what's going on in, all the wars overseas, I have no idea what's going on. And they tell me, what did Donald Trump say? Or, what is this celebrity doing? I have no idea what's going on. So it's very hard for me to participate in any of those conversations, which is not great, because if you're trying to have small talk with a random person, rather than getting into a deep conversation about them personally, you don't really have a whole lot to talk about at the surface level, which is good and bad, because you start just having better and more meaningful conversations with people. But it does mean that the little small talk that you have with random people, you just don't really know what's going on. You're a little bit out of the loop. To be honest, at this point, I don't even really see it as a bad thing. I find that my conversations are so much more enjoyable. I actually talk about things that I care about, because a lot of the time when we have conversations with people, we end up just saying things because we think people might like it, right? You just talk about what you think they might know or they might be interested in. Rather than doing that, you try and actually get to know a person. You try and, express what you're trying to do. You try and figure out what they're trying to do. You talk about your goals. You talk about actually interesting and meaningful things, which is a great thing. But you're definitely not going to be in the loop. You're not going to know what's going on as well. Now, I've noticed that, and I've made a whole video about this, about not using any politics for 6 months, but I've noticed that I haven't missed out on anything important, because most of the time when people are consuming information about politics, about current affairs, about celebrities and influencers, you can't use that information anyway. It can't benefit your life in any way. You can't make meaningful adjustments to your life based on that information. All you can do with it is just sift through all the crap and then find the most interesting things and talk about it with other people. So you're always going to hear what's going on if anything interesting is actually happening. You're not going to miss out on that at all. But you're going to miss out on all the crap and not have to worry about all that stupid stuff outside of your control. So I've found it's been not an issue in terms of missing out on information, but I have noticed that I'm out of touch. I don't know what's going on. I'm not able to participate as well in those kind of conversations. So those were the downsides I've noticed with dopamine detoxing. To be honest, the downsides do not really outweigh the pros, the benefits that I've had. In fact, they don't even come close. I consider some of those downsides to actually be positives. There's no way that that is going to stop me from continuing to embark on this dopamine detoxing journey. I'm absolutely loving it. Let me know what you think about that. If you liked the video, if you found something interesting, then please like and subscribe to the channel. There's probably a video somewhere around here that you might be interested in, so I will see you in one of those.